Aston Villa have bounced back. Aston Villa have gone out there tonight and done the only thing that was important, that was get the 3 points. Yesterday, Chelsea drew 2-2 against Leeds, and Manchester United were 1-0 down against West Ham, but rescued a draw. They had the sharks of Man United, Liverpool and Chelsea swimming around them. Liverpool are currently playing Sunderland, but the other two dropped points. Aston Villa went out there, and let's be honest, it wasn't the most entertaining game. It was quite ugly at times. Martinez had to make some big saves. But it wasn't Rodgers. It wasn't Watkins. It was actually Mings who stepped up tonight. And you know what? It almost feels like the last 2 or 3 weeks for Aston Villa has been very up and down. You know, they had that really good result against Arsenal, the really good result against Man City. Then they have a few wins, go away to Arsenal, comfortably lose, beat Forest, beat Spurs in the FA Cup. Off the back of that 11-game win streak, win a few games, beat Newcastle United away, beat Salzburg, beat Fenerbahce. Since that Fenerbahce win, lose to Brentford at home, draw away to Bournemouth. But tonight, the only thing that mattered was going out there and getting the win. And look, last couple of games, that they have dropped points. But I think that was a very even, Aston Villa, of course, edged it on more shots. But it was a very even game at points. You know, Aston Villa dominated parts of the first half. Brighton dominated parts of the second half. And Brighton are actually closely getting dragged in to a relegation battle. They're only 2 points above us. And we are, at this moment, it's arguably the worst Tottenham team I've ever seen. It's performing that badly. And they're only 2 points above us. Fabian Hurst needs to be careful, because that Brighton side, they've got some good players in there. But they're now, 5 games without a win, 6 games without a win, whatever it may be. Make sure you go down and drop a like on the video if you haven't already. Get over to the second channel. Check out the Heitinga potentially getting appointed as the new interim manager throughout the remainder of the season. Check out the Thomas Frank sacking video, as well as the post-match reaction from last night. The road to 100,000 subscribers is well and truly on. Make sure you go down, hit that subscribe button, let me know your thoughts, because we have got a lot to jump into. We'll be covering the Man City game as well. Now, Aston Villa, the only thing that mattered tonight was the 3 points. That is the only thing that mattered. They went out there, they did their job, they got the 3 points. Ollie Watkins and Rodgers in the 11. Of course, Rodgers booked. Sancho on the right. I think that front four is Aston Villa's. It's their best front four. In terms of the midfield, you know, we can talk about the fact that Tielemans and Kamara are out injured. And bearing in mind, Matty Cash didn't start. Konsa and Mings. No Torres, no Lindelof. But Konsa been one of Aston Villa's best performers this season. Been really good. Matson in at left back. No Digne in the 11. And Martinez. And it's an interesting Brighton side. I'm a big fan of Van Hecker. But other than that, and Belieber, there aren't a huge amount of top-tier quality players. And Brighton are always known for that. Genuinely, Brighton, throughout the years, have had 1 or 2 top players in their team. And they managed to sell them on, bring them back, or bring another player back, sell them on, recruit really good. You know, they sold Caicedo, they sold Basuma, they bring in Belieber. You know, they sold Colwill, they bring in Hecker. You know, they are very good at that. In terms of the bench, you know, Aston Villa is showing their quality off the bench. Lindelof, Tammy Abraham, Leon Bailey, Ross Barkley. And bearing in mind, no McGinn, no Kamara, no Yuri Tielemans. So, you know, Unai Emery has to manage this injury. I don't want to call it a crisis, because it is only, you know, 3 or 4 players out injured. But they are very important to Aston Villa's midfield. And when you look at the fixtures they've got coming up this month, they've got a huge FA Cup tie against Newcastle. I think it's Newcastle this weekend. Then they play Leeds, and then they play Wolves. Now, I do actually expect Aston Villa to win the next 3. I fancy them to beat Newcastle in the FA Cup. I fancy them to beat Leeds in the league, and I fancy them to go away to Molineux and get something. Now, if they can get 3 wins out of the next 4, that'll be really, really important between now and the end of the season for their top 4 race. Because before we get into the game and the match reaction, the top 4 race, they've gone 5 points clear. I don't think they're in a top. I mean, mathematically, they're in the title race. They're 3 points behind City. They're only 6 points behind Arsenal, who have to play tomorrow. But mathematically now, I think they're the best of the bunch that are challenging for top 4. I think they are the best of that bunch. Now, when you look at the rest of Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United and Chelsea have had identical last 5 games. Both won 4, both drew yesterday. Liverpool, however, have completely fallen off a cliff. However, as it stands, you can see this. They are 1-0 up away to Sunderland, and they could be the first team to beat them there this season. If they don't beat Sunderland, I do expect Arne Slot to be very, very close to getting sacked, because they would be on 39 points and they would be 6 points off of top 4. Oh, sorry, they'd be on 40 points, and they'd be 4 points off of Chelsea. And both of those teams are in the a bit of a mid-manager bounce. In terms of the Aston Villa goal, it come from an unlikely. I know it's gone down as a Hinshelwood own goal, but I believe that the Premier League have actually given it to Tyrone Mings, in which was a very, very important goal. They break the deadlock late on. Playing to the whistle, keep going, believing in what the manager's instructions are, which is to carry on fighting until the very, very end. Unfortunately for Aston Villa, the goal does come. Villa Park erupts. I think it's Tyrone Mings' I think the commentator said 200th appearance. He rises, to beat Leon Bailey's cross. It's a low header, ricochets off Hinshelwood. Because it's going on target, I do think they will give it as a Tyrone Mings goal, but you can understand why it would go down as an own goal. Man of the match, I probably would give it to Martinez. Yellow card, you'd expect that from him. He's always in and amongst the time wasting and whatnot. But in terms of him today, he stepped up with 2 or 3 really, really big saves. Really big saves. And Aston Villa needed that. They had to go out there today and they had to get the 3 points. When you look at what that means for the Premier League table, they are 5 points clear of 4th. And it's very likely now that 5th will get Champions League this season. More shots than Brighton. However, less shots on target. 0 big chances created for Aston Villa. But when it comes down to it, the only thing that matters, the only metric that matters, and I say this all the time whenever I'm speaking about City, Spurs, Chelsea, Man United, or Arsenal, the most important metric is that scoreline. Because fortunately for Aston Villa, that now puts them 5 points clear in the top 4 race. Chelsea have a comfortable fixture against Burnley. Did Burnley actually beat Crystal Palace? They did. Wow. That is going to be a very interesting game, that Chelsea game, because if they win again, they'd be on 21 points. That's going to be very, very interesting, especially for the relegation fight. But yeah, in terms of Aston Villa, in terms of their, I mean, look at their last 5. It's a little bit inconsistent in their win, loss, draw, win. But the only thing that matters tonight is that 3 points. Now, the Newcastle United game, Saturday, Valentine's Day. What a fantastic present that would be for the Villa fans. Equally, and what a fantastic present it would be for Newcastle United. But tonight, they got the 3 points. If they go and beat Newcastle, I do fancy them to actually be a dark horse. Isn't they not a dark horse because they're an excellent team? But you never really consider Aston Villa one of the big teams to win the FA Cup. You always look at, the Chelseas, the Man Uniteds, the Cities, the Liverpools, the Arsenals. We haven't won it in over 30 years, so I don't even put our name in the hat. Wolves away, they should go there and comfortably win. Although Wolves tonight got a point, absolutely battered by Nottingham Forest. But when it comes down to it, they weren't able to get the 3 points. So fair play to them for sticking at it. But I do think Aston Villa beat Leeds. I do think they beat Wolves, and I do think they beat Newcastle United. That Chelsea game and the Man United game, there are if they somehow win both of those, then top 4 is pretty much a certainty for them, isn't it? But as it stands right now, I do think they are one of the stronger teams in the race. And I do think they are where they are in the league for a reason. Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you soon. I'm out.